Welcome to the video game podcast. I don't know if what we just did will be its own video or if it'll be part of the podcast. Probably that second one because it sounds easier. But yeah, this is our video game podcast. We're going to talk about video games. There's not much news, which is kind of why I brought that also. We're in a point in the year, and it's a great point to be in, but we're in a point in the year where like everything that was announced during the summer is still in development.
Yeah.
So all the news is like, do you want to talk about how they showed off Venom in Spider-Man or how they added costume dyeing back into Assassin's Creed? Not really.
We're talking about our weeks in video game.
Yes, of
as
course.
usual.
Yes. Then if there's not much news, why don't...
We are still live. That was weird.
That was weird. That was the whole house. Since there's not much news, and I just did that, why don't you start
Sure.
with your week, and then we'll go over to me.
So, as people know who follow this channel, watch this podcast, Pauline and I have been playing 7 Days to Die. We're both a little burnt out.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, also just because you've probably gotten to the point that I think you can get to in games like this where it's just like, well, we did it.
Yeah.
We survived.
Yeah. Yeah, we're doing pretty well. There's less than... She does, the farming and building stuff. There's just less things to do during the day. It more becomes just when our zombie's going to show up.
Right.
And how long is it going to take us to fix whatever they break. As opposed to, like, exciting. I got to get all this stuff done before the 7th night. Like, we're just kind of like, do you need more mines? Yeah,
right,
I could use more mines.
Because if you're still in the process of building your thing and night 7 happens and then, like, your progress gets pushed back a little, it's, like, more interesting than if it's just like, well, now that we're done, bring it on, I guess.
Well, there was, I think, like, the last night 7 that we had, we have drawbridges to get in and out. I was literally installing the last drawbridge as the night 7 zombies were coming. Like, it was like cinematic. It was like, and then that, what noise happens when night 7 happens?
It's like a shrieking, like,
yeah. That happens, and the gate just got built, so I was like, okay. Because if I didn't set it up, there's just a gaping hole where they can get in. So she's shooting, and I'm like, all the way to the place where we need to put the gate in. And I got it just in time, just the way I wanted to set it up. But that was like the last exciting thing that happened to us in that game. So we've both agreed we're going to take a small break from 7 days. And we're literally on the day before the 7th day. The next 7th day. So
you're on day, like,
62.
Oh, nice.
We made it to 62 days before getting bored.
That's pretty cool. That was always an issue for me with that game because there's a lot of games like that where, like, there is an ending and you can get credits.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's like the game's decision to, like, what does it do with, like, okay, I guess we can just put you back in the world, or we can decide not, And I feel like that game, as fun as it is, there's no, like, you eventually do always get to a point where you're like, well, now what?
You got to make your own goal.
Right.
You got to make how you want it to go.
No, and eventually you just can't.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's why all these games, like, even Minecraft has an ending and you can reach credits.
Yeah. So
that you as a player can be like, I did it. I beat, I guess, Minecraft. I'll stop, I guess.
Right. So that's kind of, we're not saying we're never coming back to it. We're just taking a break. But with that break, I have gotten back into Elden Ring.
Oh, okay. Oh, dude, I'm so, like, I want to play a Souls game, like, now.
I feel the opposite. I want to just hurry up and finish this game so I can play Pokemon.
Where are we at? Where are you at in Elden Ring?
So I ended and have picked back up at the Godskin Duo, and it's just too hard. I forget how to play, and now it's way too hard, and I'm this close to giving up. if you want to hop on and help me beat these two, I
What
might
kind of
keep
build
going.
do you have?
Like
what is your main weapon and summons?
I'm dual wielding like straight swords.
Oh, okay.
Don't use a lot of magic, building my strength and dex in HP. So
Oh, okay, cool.
So just very hands-on barbarian D&D style character.
Do you want to know what I found out about Elden Ring the other day?
What?
Because I've been watching a YouTube channel, and all they talk about is Souls-likes. If you have a great shield in that game and a thrust weapon like a spear or a rapier, you can hold the shield and stab from behind it.
That's pretty cool.
I didn't know that.
Crystal sword. Oh yeah, I have a crystal sword for one of my two swords.
Crystal sword. Okay. I played with katanas, so I'm more familiar with them at this point. But yeah, I think I might, after Shining Pearl or whatever it's called, the game we're playing, I might move on to a Souls game because I want to play one.
Sure. But yeah, I'm just at my wit's end with this game. Here's the thing: I refuse to grind anymore.
Well, you don't really.
Like, if let's say I've played 120 hours, I've spent 50 grinding.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, I feel like Elden Ring is a little different because it's open world, but I feel like in a Souls game, you really don't have to grind. And I feel like if you are fighting the Godskin duo and you're like, I'm just not getting it, or I'm just not strong enough for stuff, instead of grinding, I would suggest like finding a dungeon or a boss that you haven't beaten yet. Like have you done the fire? I forget what it's called. Volcano Temple is what it's called. Have you done that with the giant snake?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I feel I would recommend like going online and being like, where are some areas I haven't visited yet? Because there's probably a cool boss fight that you haven't done that's easier than the Godskin duo, which is one of the hardest in the game. And I'm not gonna lie, the fight you have to do in order to eventually beat the game after the Godskin duo is the hardest fight in the game.
Yeah. I don't know. What you're saying makes sense. I don't know if I care enough at this point.
That's fair too.
You know,
it's a long ass game.
If I'm not, because everybody's been hyping me up that I'm right at the end.
You are.
If I'm not good enough at this point, either as a player or leveled up enough, I don't know. I feel like it's not my fault. If you just keep making the game so hard that I have to go back and like triple down on what level I'm on every time I fight a boss, I don't know. It's fun. It's been a fun game. I've also, here's the deal though. A little goal I made for myself, which I think I'd rather break that first than call it quits entirely. I've had zero help from anybody in this entire game up till now.
Real people or like NPCs included?
I did have a few NPC summons.
Yeah.
But
you haven't called any community members?
No.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, which I wanted to try and beat the game like that, but if it's this goddamn hard, then if you are free, or if one of our friends who I know plays is free, I just want to get the game over with. That's kind of where my head's at.
Here's what I recommend. Let's say outside help is not available.
Yeah.
Here's what I recommend. I forget exactly how to do it because it's been like a full year since I played this game. But if you go to Renala, who is the second big boss, she's on the library in the school.
I know you can reset your stats, right?
Yeah.
I considered that. I don't know what else I would do. I've already leveled up my two swords so much that like if I decide I'm gonna focus on magic, I don't have any weapons that are at the same level.
Yeah. The other thing I would suggest is looking up someone else fighting the boss, because I feel like as far as looking stuff up for a video game goes, obviously if you're stuck and you don't know which way to go, sure, call that cheating. But I feel like just watching someone else play a fight would maybe, because there might literally, because Elden Ring and these Dark Souls games, they're so intricately programmed that there might be something about this boss fight that you're literally missing. Like, oh, if you stand in this one spot, or if you're like, oh, I should do this to my weapon, and then it's like trivial, you know?
I did look something up. People were saying I have to kill the fat one first.
But that's, if I remember correctly, that doesn't matter because they just respawn, right?
They do. Kill the fat one first, work on the skinny one, because the fat one keeps, like, you know, he does that roll thing.
Yeah, that shit is annoying.
So they said just get him out, and it takes, there's like a timer. So
Right.
you knock him out, now you have a certain amount of time to work on the other one before he comes back. When he comes back, just knock him out immediately, go work on the other one again.
Yeah.
But it's not easy.
No, it's, yeah. Yeah, cool. If you, regardless of whether this is the end of your Elden Ring experience or not, excuse me, and I do understand completely what you're describing, like your like fatigue with this game, because it's a long ass game, and by the time I got to the final boss, was ready to, like, I literally called 2 people to basically just do it for me, because I was like, I just want to see the end, and I don't really have the brain power to dedicate getting good at yet another boss. That's kind of the point I always get to with Dark Souls 3, but this game is a lot more, because you know me, I tried to do everything I could in that game, and by hour 192 I was like, I'd like to play something else.
That's exactly where I'm at, because I did the same thing. I really explored this game. I don't know if I'm sure there's bosses I never even knew existed.
Well, you said you didn't do Melania, right? You never got to the Halig tree or whatever it's called. Her.
No, I never fought her.
Yeah, she's optional. She's her own bonus area that you would probably have to look up on the internet how to get to her. She's the hardest fight in the game.
Yeah. I just want to finish.
Yeah. But what I was going to say is whether or not the Godskin duo was where you part ways with Elden Ring or not, I really think that I don't know. There's more Souls-like games out there that I think you'd really enjoy.
Oh, yeah.
If you hadn't already played it, this is where I would suggest Jedi Fallen Order.
I didn't get that.
I said if you hadn't
I was like,
played
motherfucker, I told you to play it.
No, I know. If you hadn't already played it,
no.
this is where I would suggest that. I feel like Bloodborne is a pretty good entry-level game because obviously dual-wielding swords. It sounds like you're more into rolling than guarding.
Yeah.
There is no shields in Bloodborne. It's all attack focused. Cool. Instead of a shield, you have a gun.
Oh, cool.
And you can riposte with the gun, and you can stagger with the gun, which is pretty cool. But there's one shield in the game, and it's a joke because it sucks, and you're not supposed to equip it. So I would suggest that game. It is my favorite game of all time. That's not why I'm recommending it. I think it is a good entry level because that game is like a Souls game developed by the people who made Souls, like this one, except it's back to like there's no jumping.
Yeah,
right? It's back to like being a Souls game, as it were.
I'm definitely gonna look into more games like this. However, I also right before this game, I played my first Pokemon game ever.
Yes,
and I did complete that.
Yeah,
more or less. I want to, like, as far as I'm concerned, 100%.
Yeah, it sounds like this game where Nuzlocking has like a incredibly steep like. Here's
Elite
the time.
Four.
Here's the time to beat the game, and here's the time to 100% it.
Yeah. So I just want to do every Elite Four battle in that game, and then I'm done. I enjoyed the hell out of that Pokemon game. Yeah. I really want to play the next one.
I'm curious what you're gonna think going from the most traditional Pokemon game they've released in the last 15 years to some open world thing that they're trying for the first time.
It's exciting. I understand and realize I have a pretty unique experience with Pokemon.
Because you didn't have to sit through Sword and Shield. You didn't have to sit through them being like, what if it was kind of open world but not really, and well, there's no story and this game sucks. We're sorry.
I think I might skip that one. I do want to find a way to play the old games.
Oh, sure. Honestly, to find a way to play the old games, I'd say just wait, because they're probably going to
That's what I'm saying.
They're probably going to be on Switch.
Right.
On those services later, sooner than later, because they haven't announced a Pokemon game on those services. But they haven't announced one of the like mainline, but they've announced a Pokemon game, the trading card game, is going to be on there. So they have the rights to do that. If that was an issue.
Would you be opposed to because we've got that little slip to put in the SNES?
Yeah. Oh, you could do that too.
Yeah, maybe on the channel.
How old are we talking? Like red and blue, or like?
I'd like to try the original.
Oh, okay. The originals are rough.
Yeah.
They like things that you take like for granted, not just in Pokemon games, but in video games, are not present. Like there's no run button.
Okay.
It's that archaic, because it's like when that game came out, it was like the most high tech like takes up the most RAM, for lack of a better term, Game Boy game that there was. And then the sequel came out, and the sequel was like in terms of like graphics and fidelity and you know, system requirements and stuff, it was like double. It was like way better.
Jeez.
And people were like, how did you fucking do that? And I'll tell you how they did it. It was Satoru Iwata being a genius. But I don't know if like I at this point in my life think that Red and Blue and Yellow are pretty bad video games.
Okay.
I obviously realize why they got so popular, but like if you want to go like old school, I would suggest starting with Gen 3.
Okay.
I feel like that's a good mix between like, doesn't have all the new stuff you used to, like you still have to use HMs and all that stuff, but like there's running, there's actual graphics, there's color. I think that like Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, somewhere around there was where I would suggest.
I think
or Fire Red Leaf Green. That's a good point. I forgot about that. Fire Red Leaf Green is a remake of the first one in the third gen.
I do that.
So I totally forgot about that. That's a great point. It's got third gen graphics and Pokemon, but it's the first game. It's like Shining Pearl, but they remade the first one. You know?
I'd try that. Thanks for the suggestion. I think what I'm trying to say is the Mario journey that you and I started a few years ago.
Yeah.
I think I would also like to try and do with Pokemon. We don't have to play them all together, but I think I would like to experience all the old Pokemon games I never got to play.
Sure. Yeah, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that some of them are missable, you know? Like,
and that's
I don't
fine.
think you have to play 4 because you already did.
Right. I wouldn't.
I'd say you could probably skip Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire because they're not great, but like definitely play Black and White, definitely play X. The only problem is they're kind of inaccessible because they're all portable. Like, I could have you borrow my 3DS, but like, you know, it depends on what happens the next few years, how available they make these video games to the modern consumer.
I think they will too. I that's kind of where my head's at, is let's play the ones that we have at our disposal.
Yeah.
Like what we can play right now. I'd like to give it a shot. Like, I know Sword and Shield sucked. I won't play it. There's no need to. Also, with this Pokemon Home thing, I want to build my team.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to like port them, you know?
Yeah. For my money, the best Pokemon game is Heart Gold, Soul Silver. It's the remake of 2 in Gen 4. It's the only Pokemon game that I ever, besides Legends Arceus, but that one's a little different. And the new one. I did it in the new one. It's the only Pokemon game that I ever got all the Pokemon in. And I played that game for, I think, 600 hours. I just really loved that video game. Because in 2, there's a twist ending in 2. At the end of 2, you beat the Elite Four, and they're like, right this way. And you're like, oh, okay. And then they're like, go that way. And you're like, okay. And you're like, I'm still playing this fucking game. I'm encountering new Pokemon. And then you meet a dude, and he's like, hey, you're officially in the Kanto region. Open your map. And then you have the entire first game's map to visit as well. And I didn't know that. And I experienced that in Heart Gold and Soul Silver because they did that in that game as well. And it's just like, it's a great game. I really like that one. So if we're talking like classic Pokemon games that are inaccessible, I think the best one is Heart Gold, Soul Silver.
Cool. Heart Gold, yeah. We got a Heart Gold, Soul Silver is incredible.
Yeah, it's great. I caught a few shinies in that game too.
Nice.
I had a shiny Crobat who was actually on my team, and I had 2 shiny Rattatas. So like the scum of the Pokemon Earth, but like still, it was still cool.
Yeah. Very cool. I had something else. Oh. I'm going to save it for the next podcast.
Okay.
Remind me. I have a Pokemon thing in my life to talk about in the next podcast.
Okay. I will try to remember.
All right. How was your week in video games?
So 2 weeks and 1 day ago, I bought Final Fantasy 16. 2 weeks and 2 days ago, I started playing a game called Weird West.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like immediately into it. And I played Final Fantasy 16 for maybe 2 or 3 hours, and it didn't immediately grab my attention. So I went back to Weird West, and I played the fuck out of it. I just beat it yesterday, and I think you would really like this game.
Okay.
And I have to tell you about it. So I talked about it a little bit in the last podcast, but I was basically like, I just started, I'll talk about it later. So the theme of this game is it's not the Wild West, it's the Weird West. So it's like a fictional fantasy world that vaguely looks like the Wild West. The whole thing takes place in the desert. There's towns and cowboys and stuff like that, but there's also zombies and werewolves and wendigos and witches and all this stuff. So it plays like old Fallout games or Arcanum, if you've ever seen that game. It's a top-down, like, isometric game.
Okay.
Which is the only, like, level of entry. Like, if you start playing this game and you're like, wow, I really don't like the combat, I'd say, like, give it an hour or two to, like, get acquainted with the controls and stuff. Maybe mess around with the settings and stuff, because it is an exceptional game. And so you play as 5 characters.
Okay.
But it's not GTA 5 style. It's literally like you play this character's whole story, and then that ends, and then you move on to character 2. This game, you can interact with this world in so many ways. This game, this is not something I looked up. This is literally in the tutorial. They tell you can kill everybody you meet, and the game is still beatable. Jesus. Or you could kill nobody. You could have try to do a violenceless, stealth-filled playthrough of this game, where you probably have to kill a few people, but maybe not. I didn't try it. But you can like manipulate this world, and so the first things that you start playing as, you are on your farm, and you immediately find yourself, if you're like me and you want to look around the area before you leave, you find yourself in a barn, and there's a ledge in the barn that has bullets on it. You can see them. You're like, oh, a few bullets. I would very much like those. I'm just starting this game, but it's way too high up. So what I did was I went to the menu, and I was like, okay, if I have 9 upgrade points, I'll have the highest jump. There's no way I'm supposed to do that and then come back here just for these few bullets. So I started looking around, and it turns up, Fallout style, you can pick up anything. You can pick up lamp, you can pick up barrel, you can pick up chair. So what I did was I picked up barrel, put it down, jumped on the barrel, jumped up to the window, got the bullets.
Nice.
So it's one of those games where it's like, find a problem, find a solution on your own, right? And you can so because you can kill anyone you want, you can you could walk into town. You could walk into the most important town in the game and kill everyone and leave it a ghost town. But then you come back as the same character a few in-game days later. Maybe it's still a ghost town, but you play for a few more hours. You come back as a different character, and now outlaws have taken over the town. Oh, wow. So you kill them, or maybe you have a bounty hunter mission to kill them or something. Then town's technically abandoned again. You play for a few more in-game days later. Maybe you're a new character again. You go back, and now the town is like a commerce, like trading hub. And you come back even later, and now it's like a fully blown town again, complete with like new side quests. Wow. And it's like, I don't know how you program shit like that, but it's so cool. My favorite thing I did in the game, there's these things, they're pig men. They're literally like, they're on 2 feet, they're people, but they look like pigs. And character 2 is a pig man, and his whole story is he doesn't know why he's a pig man. He has amnesia. I'm not sure if he was born a pig man or not. You have to figure out what's happened to this dude. But because you're a pig man, nobody likes you. So they're literally racist against you. So you'll go to a town that you went to as the bounty hunter, the first character, and like they barely were okay with letting you in. All the prices are like 80% more expensive because you're a pig dude. So my favorite thing that I did with this game, because I was like, I really want to test this game's claim that you can do anything you want to this world and it's still beatable. So I was in this town. I was getting nothing done. A horse was too expensive. The relayographer wouldn't send a relay for me. It was just like, this town is like the most racist town I've ever encountered. And I was like, you know what? Fuck this town. I'm going to kill everyone. So what I learned is that if you kill someone in the middle of town, you instantly get bounty on your head and lower reputation because you committed a major crime, as the game calls it. So what I did was I snuck up behind everybody in town. I knocked them out. I carried their body, dumped them in a river, and then they drowned to death. So the murder was out of my hands. I did this to everybody in town except the school teacher. I had to murder her in cold blood. Fun fact, you can't kill children. Didn't want to kill children. Happy that you can't kill children. The children just sort of disperse, and they're like, ah.
Okay.
So I did it. I killed everybody in this town. I was like, okay, I got that out of my system. I went to the world map. I set my next destination. I immediately got minus 30 reputation for the major crime of killing the school teacher, and then I got an achievement for making a town a ghost town single-handedly.
Jesus.
And I was like, that's awesome. Not only was I like, let's see if I'll like this game is like fuck around and find out the game.
Yeah,
there's a robust quick save system. So if you're like, what if I just fucking shoot this clown, and you quick save and you're like, okay, shooting him didn't work. I understand that. I'll go back. I won't shoot him. And
that sounds awesome.
It really is, and it really makes me feel like
so it's kind of like an RDR2 in Skyrim crossover.
Except I can't stress enough that like I'm looking at the screen and like the camera's up here and here's your character moving around. Like it's very old Fallout games. It's unlike any game I've ever played. Not saying there's other games like this. I just haven't been a fan of them until this game. Yeah, it was just really cool.
Is it a play on the channel kind of game?
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Maybe though, because I definitely want you to try it.
Yeah.
And if you and I know you wouldn't do this, but if you can get the Steam version of the game, apparently there's a mod that makes it in first person.
I think that would be, how do I put this? Quality of life would go up substantially for me.
What's interesting about this mod, though, obviously it's not recognized or would be part of, not official or else it would be part of the game, but it's officially recognized by the dev because that mod was programmed by one of the devs. So that was that programmer basically being like, all right, I'll show you guys how robust our like engine that we've crafted is. I'll just make a mod that turns it to first person mode, and that's all I'll do. And apparently it's pretty good. But that would be on the Steam version, obviously.
Yeah.
I think this game is better with a controller because it is a twin-stick shooter, and you kind of need two sticks to play a twin-stick shooter, at least in my opinion. There is a separate aiming mode that I figured out. Tip that the game did not tell me that I figured out. If you find a bucket of water, you can click drink water, and it'll heal 5 HP. And you can do that 3 times, and then the water's empty. If it's raining currently, the water bucket will just refill. So you can just stand there, not wasting health potions, filling your water over and over again. There's a character who is a big, huge main character in the first playthrough, and she has a secret, and you find out the secret, and there's a big choice. And it's like, do I reveal her secret to everybody, or do I keep it a secret? And if you click to keep her a secret, she becomes a friend for life, which is another mechanic. Sometimes people will be a friend for life, and
until you kill them.
Well, what'll happen is you'll be getting a scrape, and then all of a sudden they just appear. They're like, I heard you were in a scrape, and I'm shooting now too. So this character shows up. She's like, I'm here too. Explodes immediately and
oh my
dies.
God!
All of a sudden, I have permanently altered the ending of this game, because at the end of this game, they do the whole like, here's how you affected the people around you type thing, and one of them is that character. And if I didn't reload that save, I just let that character die, I would not have seen that part of the ending.
Jesus.
So my recommendation is to play it. First of all,
Yeah,
I think it's really great.
One thing, Langle brings up a good point. He says the art style of this game looks so good. I'm really curious as to what this game looks like. I'm picturing like the original Zelda.
No, this game is cell shaded. It almost looks like a comic book.
Okay.
And I think that's intentional because the Jonah Hex comic books were called Weird Western Tales, and I think the art style is supposed to be an homage to that, like that sort of like it's the Wild West, but it's not really the Wild West because weird shit's going on.
Yeah, yeah.
You find,
and it's top down though.
It's top
down.
So
like in that aspect, like original Zelda, like you just kind of go and then you move to the next portion.
Sure, not really though. Have you ever played Gauntlet? Not the arcade version, but like the N64 version.
I've played the Gauntlet. You mean like somebody drew it? That game?
No.
Isn't that Gauntlet? What game am I thinking of?
I don't know.
The art style is like actually hand drawn. It looks like an old Disney movie.
Oh no.
Do you know what game I'm talking about though?
You're talking about Cuphead?
No.
Oh.
They play it in Stranger Things. I think the first season.
Oh, that's Dragon's Lair.
Yeah, sorry.
No,
that's what I was
Gauntlet
of.
is at Fun Spot. It's you play as the Red Wizard.
Yeah. Okay, that one's Gauntlet. Yeah, I haven't played the N64 version of Gauntlet.
I'm trying to think of a single.
Oh, it's like a Diablo style game.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I know what that is.
Diablo is the camera's like Diablo, except it's a Wild Western, so it's a shooter.
Okay.
Where you have and spoiler alert, just like in every other video game, zombies are really weak to shotgun to the face, which is pretty cool. But yeah, it also has like a Breath of the Wild style, like you could shoot the guy or you could shoot an oil lamp and then throw a Molotov in the oil and have it set on fire. And then maybe it sets the forest on fire and now all his buddies are on fire. Meanwhile, they don't know that you're the one who did that. Right. They didn't see you do it. That's the other thing. Like it's really like up to you how you approach this world, which was fascinating to me. It's like, do you want to do this mission stealth or do you want to just fucking shoot a bitch?
Right.
It was an exceptional experience. I sort of rushed through Character 4 and Character 5 because I was really curious about the story. That's the other thing too. The story was really good. Sometimes with a game like this, especially in a game that there's no voice acting, the story can get kind of like, okay, all right, let's just go for it. But I was invested. But I recommend playing it. I recommend taking your time, really. Like just exploring this world and seeing all it has to offer. I did want to talk about two more things.
Sure.
One, the only character that's voice acted in the game is the narrator, which I think is cool. Sometimes there's games that do this that I'm like, I don't know about this, but he's not intrusive. He comes in very rarely, and he's got like a Sam Elliott style, like. So, for example, there was every time you do a like a main mission thing, he'll be like, wasn't that weird? Now we're going over here to do that, you know? But then he'll provide necessary feedback sometimes. Like there was a part of the game where there was a dude, I was trying to find him, he was on my map, but I couldn't find him. He was buried underground.
Oh.
And you had to dig him up, and he was banging on the thing, and you could hear the banging, but I couldn't. So what was very helpful was this guy came in and was like, you hear a light thud from behind you. It's faint, but it sounds like it's coming from below the ground. And I was like, oh, he's buried. It was just cool. I really like the inclusion of the narrator, especially because it's cool that he's the only person that's voice acted. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was something that no one is talking about on the internet. I went to the page for both of these things. It wasn't listed there. I went to the Reddit and I was like, is this a thing? Everyone ignored me. So I want to put it right here. I found this thing. And I'm declaring that this is the first time on the internet that someone has said that this thing is this.
Okay.
So in this game, there's random encounters and the way
we're still talking about Weird West.
Yes.
Okay.
So the way random encounters works in Weird West is it could be good, bad. It could be, you find a cave, but it's not a place on the map. You have to stumble upon it. So I stumbled upon a place called the Serpent's Mouth, and it was a cave that looked like a snake. And you go in the cave, and there's like this pressure point plate, which is not in the game at all other than this part. You step on it, and a few, like 5 snakes come out of the wall, and you shoot them all. You're like, oh, that's what the pressure plates does. This whole cave is that one room, and then a second room, and the second room is completely littered with these pressure plates. So you have to. Eventually you get to the point where you're like, I'm just gonna run through it, and you step on them. You're swarmed by like tens and tens of snakes, right? And you kill them all. And then when you get to the end, there's a chest, and you open the chest, and you get a vest that has like snake resistance or whatever. But the chest is bathed in a beam of light that's coming from the ceiling. And I guess what I'm saying is this is so clearly an Indiana Jones reference to me.
Oh, yeah.
And I checked the Indiana Jones reference wiki that I appreciated because it went like way too far. Like it was like in Avengers Infinity War when he grabs the thing from Doctor Strange's thing, he burns his hand like in Indiana Jones. I was like, no, but sure. No, but whatever. And it wasn't there, and it wasn't on the Weird West page, and I couldn't actually find a wiki article for this specific random encounter.
Yeah.
And everyone on the subreddit ignored me. So I found a reference that no one else did. Fuck y'all. You heard it here first. Thunder and Lightning Gaming. The Serpent's Mouth is an Indiana Jones reference.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, it was so good. Maybe I'll talk about Final Fantasy 16 next time. Haven't played it yet.
No, I'm glad you found an indie game that you're really into.
Yeah. No pun intended. I found an indie game.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. You don't have an Xbox, right? Yeah. I got it. The only reason I was able to play it is because it's on Game Pass. So I got it for free. Weird West Definitive Edition is the version I played. And I think it's $25 full price.
Wow.
Which is like
not bad.
Not bad at all. Not bad at all for a and it's not like I said I rushed through character 4 and 5. I put in a good 21, 22 hours into this game.
Really?
Like it was a beefy experience, and I came out the other end saying like I feel like I could have done more. But I want to move on to other things, and I had a great time with this game. It was cool. It was really cool. I also this game I appreciated this. I rarely looked up what to do on the internet. More often than not, it was like either clear what I had to do, or I would just like maybe it's this. Oh, okay, it was that. Like I was able to figure it out. And maybe I'm just talking up myself right now, but I feel like it's. I want to give credit to the game for being like easy enough to understand, even though the like isometric perspective of this game was like a little like hard to get used to at first.
Right.
It was still like very like, oh, that's what they mean. Here's what I do. Like there was a mission that I was like, this feels like a mission I'm gonna have to look something up for, and it wasn't. I figured out the whole thing myself, and then when I did look it up later, turns out I completed that mission one way of like 5 possible ways.
That's cool.
And it just so happened the way I figured it out was like based on knowledge I had. I like noticed a thing. I was like, wait a minute, I'm gonna investigate this part. And like if I hadn't done this stuff, or it's just the whole game is like that, where it's just like, oh, because you did this, this is happening now. Do you remember? Oh, I do. Oh, that was my fucking fault. You know, stuff like that. It's really cool. Very cool game.
Cool.
I'm so happy I played it. And I hope you play it someday because it was a masterpiece. I loved every second of it. I don't think it came out this year.
I mean, you sold me. I'd love to give it a shot.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about news? Is there anything for video game news?
No, there's not.
Do we want to make a video game?
I don't think so because we did the demo at the beginning and I talked a lot about Weird West. So now it's 6 and we should move on to
That was our weeks in video game and in video games, and I think that's all we have for this video game podcast.
Yes, next video game podcast we will definitely make a game. Because we didn't this time.
Yeah.
So
there might be a little time, more time than expected for people who are watching this on YouTube. We're going to have a couple of busy weekends ahead of us, which we'll probably talk about more in our regular podcast. So if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you check out the regular podcast too for more info on that.
Be uploaded in 4 days from now if you're watching on YouTube. Thank you for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe.
Our channel has daily uploads from podcast video essays, Let's Plays to skits.
Be sure to watch on Twitch. We stream all our video game and podcast content live at 5 EST every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday.
Our intro is by Brad Kendrick and music by Froggy and the Friendship. Link to all that in the description below.
Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.